Oh, what's up, everybody? So, today I will be going over how I make my setups in one video and kind of show you my process. So, I'm sure you've watched a couple of my videos already and kind of wondered why I didn't share a setup. It's not because I'm trying to keep anything from you. A lot of it has to do with A, your assist, B, your drive mode, and C, your style. So, obviously, if you're running different assists, it's not going to be a one-to-one conversion on setups because the assists are going to take over a little bit and it's going to make the car feel different. Then, if you're on a wheel versus on a controller, those two modes are going to feel completely different. And then, third, obviously, is your drive style. So, like, say you like to really drive it in aggressive, your setup's going to demand something different versus someone who's easy in and hard off, or whatever the case is. So, to break down this page right here, what you see is how I race every single track the second I get to it for the first time. Call this like a benchmark setup. This is what I know what it feels like when I drive it. So I know when I'm taking my first couple laps of, oh, I'm going to need to be really loose here, really tight. You at least get a general idea before you start messing with stuff. So the second part to this is where that line is, I have in two categories. Your right side is your universals, your left side is your independents. Universals is obviously you change one thing, it changes everything. Then you have your 5 for each side. So you got your 20 adjustments for all the tires and the sides. It's perfect. Typically, your universals, try to lock in first. So wheel lock, unless you're on a road course, will always be 7.5 for me. I always, for ovals, I'll always have that 56%, unless there's a rare exception where it's a flat track. It's a different asymmetrical track, something like that. Rear end ratio, I will always have in the middle, and we'll get back to that. The wedge, I start at 50. Left weight, I always start at 53. Nose weight, I normally always have it. It's either here or 52. We can touch on that here in a second why it's a little bit different. Steering offset for ovals is always minus 13, and I do not run sway bars unless there is a weird exception. But for tire pressures for qualifying, it will always be 15 unless we're doing a race setup, and the cambers will always be maxed out like so on every setup, damn near. Now, this is where it gets interesting. After you come back and ran your benchmark setup and got the feedback you wanted, first thing I do then is on the independence, I will go around and change the spring rate. So typically, your spring rate, you go higher is more free, it's looser. The lower it is, the tighter it is. As you can see, I start out with a base setup pretty tight and then very average on the bumps and rebounds. So essentially, when you're thinking about bump and rebounds, this is your shocks. And when you're thinking about your shocks, your only real focus is how it acts on entry and on exit. Your rebound is exit, or your rebound is your entry, your bump is exit. So think about it as, I'm sure we all taken apart a pen in class or whatever and messed with that spring in there. Your rebound is essentially putting that spring between your thumb and your finger, and you're trying to push it down. The higher the value, the higher the click, the harder it is for you to push and compress that spring. Now, bump is the inverse. So it is already, that spring is already compressed. The higher the value, the higher the click, the harder and the more it will want to resist going back into its natural position of where it was with no force. So when you're making that adjustment, let's say you're tight off, you just can't turn the nose. Instead of adjusting your spring, you can tweak it, go down a click or two on your bump, or vice versa on entry if you're talking rebound. That's essentially what you're doing. I would only do 1 or 2 per adjustment. See what it does. Sometimes one click you don't feel it, but on everything else, if you're doing spring rate, only 1 adjustment per. You're just going to struggle to figure out what adjustment did what to your car, and then you're guessing from there. So make 1 adjustment at a time. So, and then in this process too, I will start in the middle of the rear end ratio. I'll run a couple laps. On the straightaways, getting right into the corner before I'm lifting, you need to be at about 2 or 3 ticks into that red line. No more than 3 clicks red if you're looking at your tachometer. If you're not quite there or you're tacking out too much, you need to adjust your rear end. Wedge is, don't look at wedge as just helping you turn or get tighter. Look at it as middle help, the middle of your turn help. So if you feel like you're very comfortable exit and entry, but your car's lagging, it's not getting enough room, but you don't want to change left weight or nose weight, go ahead and adjust, go down a half round or a round, or up a half round or a round. When your left weight's pretty self-explanatory. It's where your weight is in comparison to the side. Higher the value, the more it is on the left. Typically for all ovals, this will be a maxed out value. Now, your nose weight and your brake bias are a little bit hand in hand. So your brake bias, the lower the value, the more your rear tires will, or your rear brakes will be doing the work versus your fronts. The higher the value, the more your fronts will. So the more the fronts, the shorter your brake distance will be, but the less it's going to want to try to turn under brake pressure. So like, for example, let's say you're going to somewhere where you have to turn like crazy. Wherever that is, you have to realize when your brake bias is below 50 that your front tires will start to kick out towards the direction you're turning. So the more you do this, the more your tires will slide, the more it wears, the harder it is going to be to control. And this is a little caveat to it. If you add pressures, you're taking grip out of your tires, which makes your tires slide more. And if your brake bias is already below 50, this becomes kind of a spiral to where there's nothing you can do to fix that. So you have to be really careful on tracks you're running below 50% brake bias. But brake bias, 56% is normally your golden rule for all ovals. Now, where this ties into nose weight is it's got a very similar aspect to this affects brake distance. So if you're loading up more weight into the nose, that'll help your car rotate quicker. There'll be less of that stall between your input turning left or right and it actually doing left or right. But this will slow down your stopping distance significantly. So on tracks like New Hampshire, Martinsville, any road course that you're going 106, like hitting the bus stop at the Glen, you will want a lower nose weight to make it easier to stop and quicker to stop, so you can get on to the next part of the track into the turn and get off. So, but like I said, I normally don't run sway bars either. The only time I'll really run it is if I'm really struggling. Like, let's say this is a really tight setup and I'm still kicking the back. I'm going to add some sway bar. But that'll be after I've run it and I've exhausted every other possibility. If the front's kicking around and I have to run like a lower brake bias, I might throw on a front sway bar. So, but this is kind of my general rule of thumb. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them below and I will get back to you as soon as I can. But the best part about this video for you guys will be learning how to do this on your own so you can make decisions and understand what your car is doing so you can do better in races and online comp. So appreciate you guys.